All right, Psalm 44 is where we're at. This one reads, "For the choir director, a maskil of the sons of Korah. O God, we have heard with our ears. Our fathers have told us the work that you did in their days. In the days of old, you with your own hand did drive out the nations. Then you did plant them. Then you did afflict the peoples, and then you spread them abroad. For by their own sword they did not possess the land, and by their own arm they did not save them. But your right arm and your right hand and the light of your presence but your right hand and your arm and the light of your presence, for you did favor them. Thou art my king, O God. Command victories for Jacob. Through thee we will push back the adversaries. Through thy name we will trample down those who have risen up against us. For I will not trust in my bow, nor will my sword save me. But you have saved us from our adversaries, and you have put us to shame. You have put to shame those who hate us. In God we have boasted all day long, and we will give thanks to thy name forever. Selah. Yet you have rejected us and brought us to dishonor, and you do not go out with our armies. You cause us to turn back from the adversary, and those who hate us have taken spoil for themselves. You do give us as sheep to be eaten, and have scattered us among the nations. You do sell thy people cheaply, and has not profited by their sale. You do make us a reproach to our neighbors, a scoffing and derision to those around us. You do make us a byword among the nations, a laughingstock among the peoples. All day long my dishonor is before me, and my humiliation has overwhelmed me, because of the voice of him who reproaches and reviles, because of the presence of the enemy and the avenger. All this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten thee. We have not dealt falsely with your covenant. Our heart has not turned back. Our steps have not deviated from the way. Yet you have crushed us in the place of jackals, and have covered us with the shadow of death. If we had forgotten the name of our God, or extended our hands to a strange God, would God not find this out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. But for thy sake we are killed all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. Arouse thyself. Why do you sleep, O Lord? Awake, do not reject us forever. Why did you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? For our soul has sunk down into the dust, and our body cleaves to the earth. Rise up, be our help, and redeem us for the sake of thy loving kindness." One of the things that I think would be really interesting would be to figure out exactly when this was written. Because as you read through it, basically the author of it is saying, look, God, we know what you did in the past, and we're still your people. We have not, dealt falsely with your covenant, and why is this going on? But the assertion that you see, especially toward the end, is the author doesn't feel like they've ever done anything wrong. And yet, currently, that's not the case. I mean, God did exile his people for very specific reasons, and they did turn away from him. So as it goes through this, it basically is saying, God, we've heard with our own ears what our fathers told us. Think about all the things that God did for the children of Israel. Brought them out of the land of Egypt, brought them through the wilderness, put them in the land. It says here, you did with your own hand drive out the nations. Then you did plant them. So God drove out the nations before the Israelites who were living in the land of Canaan. The nations that shouldn't have been there, because that was not their possession. That land wasn't given to them by Noah. It was given to Shem. It wasn't given to the sons of Ham. But it was Canaan, the son of Ham, who took that land. He's like, I'm going to take it. I don't care if it's mine or not. So God drove those people out. And then God planted the nation of Israel in that land that he had promised to Abraham. And then he did afflict the people and spread them abroad. So God did all those things. God put them in the land. And then at various times he allowed other armies to come in to afflict them because of their disobedience. That's the thing we need to realize is in the history of the Jewish people, in the history of Israel, even before they had a king, during the time of the judges, when men were doing what was right in their own eyes, they were turning away from God. I mean, they had heard from their fathers, their grandfathers, yeah, we just got out of the wilderness. And you're talking 100 years later, now they're being bullied and pushed around by Canaanites and other people because of their rejection of God. So that's been the case. I don't know if you remember much about when Stephen was stoned in the book of Acts. He basically quoted the same thing. He says, you guys are stiff-necked people. And of course, that made them real happy, so they picked up stones to stone him. But he went through the history in brief of the nation of Israel and said, see, Time after time after time after time, y'all have turned away from God and you have rejected him. And that's why he's done these things. And that's why you're in the shape you're in today. And really, when you look at what's going on in the land of Israel today, that's true. What are they trusting in? They're trusting in their ability to make treaties. They're trusting in their weaponry. They're trusting in everything but God. And the cry of the Israeli people is never again. They will do anything that they have to, humanly possible, to make sure that they are not annihilated. Is that man's responsibility? I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't protect your people. You should. But if you're trusting solely in man, it's going to come to failure. But if they were like Jehoshaphat, he was king of Israel, and he saw the Assyrians coming, and what did he do? The first thing he did was pray. You got this army of 250,000 people coming. He prayed, and then he led the people to praise as they honored the Lord and said, God, we could try this, but we're going to die. But if you do it, you can take care of this army real quick. And so they praised their way to victory. And all they had to do was show up and watch God fight their battle. So, by their own sword, they did not possess the land. They didn't do it by their own power. Their own arm didn't save them, but it was God's right arm, God's right hand, and the light of his presence because he favored the people. The thing, when you look back through history, even since like the Tower of Babel, God dispersed the nations as he saw fit. The reason why the Chinese are in China is because God put them there. The reason why the Egyptians are in Egypt is because God put them there. The reason why we're here in this land many thousand years later is because God has arranged it so that he puts people where he wants them. Well, the nation of Israel, that land is still theirs because he promised it to the children of Abraham. He said, in your seed, all the nations of the world will be blessed. And there's a lot of people who are related directly to Abraham who are alive today. Is there blessing in that? Sure, but there's also people fighting over it. So are they trusting in their own strength or are they trusting in God? Well, even back then, there were times that they were trusting in their own strength. And as they trusted in their own strength, there was failure. But when they trusted God and they were following the Lord blessed that. But he writes here, you are my king, O God. Command victories for Jacob. For through thee we will push back our adversaries. Through your name we will trample down those who rise up against us. I will not trust in my bow, nor will my sword save me. But you have saved us from our adversaries. You have put to shame those who hated us. In God we have boasted all day long, and we will give thanks to thy name forever. Of course, it would make no sense for us. The United States has a fairly good military, and we like to think that we're on the top of everything in the world. But there are people who could put harm on us. But if we were to say, you know what, bring it on, the Lord will save. Now, there's a lot of provisos in that. Like, God's not going to save a nation of people who are sinful and they're not trusting in him. But let's just say best case scenario. You're doing what you're supposed to. You're honoring God. You're living for the Lord. And that whole nation's doing that, and it's blessed because of the Lord. If they have an adversary coming against them, if they were to say, some trust in horses, some trust in shields, but we'll trust in the name of the Lord our God, and make that public. You can come at us with whatever you want. We're going to trust in God to deliver us. What a testimony that would be when God actually delivers. But if it's warranted that these armies are coming against you, what a judgment. You said you trusted in God. What happened? Well, it's because of your sinfulness. Why are the Jewish people a byword among the nations and have been for generations? It's because they didn't follow the Lord their God. And the Lord cast them out and exiled them. Is he done with them? Some people think that he is, but I'm going to tell you he's not. God's not done with his people. He's got promises that he's going to fulfill, and he will see it through to the end. And so he's committed, even if they're not. So, and verse 9, he goes from, look, we've trusted in you, you saved us, and now he says, yet you've rejected us. You've brought us to dishonor. And this really could apply to them today. Now they're back in the land, but they still have all these enemies. You don't go out with our armies. You cause us to turn back from our adversaries. This is one of the things that, like, when you read in the book of Judges, I think it's Judges, or Joshua, as they come into the land of Canaan, cross over the Jordan River, into the promised land. And they beat the city of Jericho by walking around it for 7 days. Like, they didn't do anything. Well, they demonstrated their trust in God. Somebody got greedy, took something, put it in a tent. Nobody knew about it. It was hidden. And then they checked out the next town, Ai, small town, and Joshua was like, it's small. You know, everybody's like, we don't need everybody. Just send a couple thousand people up there. It's like, not worth sending everybody up there. Well, that little town killed 36 of them, or whatever it was. There was a number of them they were killed, and turned the Israelites back. And their immediate response was, why'd this happen? Why did we lose? Like, it had overwhelming numbers. Why did we lose? And God was pointing out that there was sin in the camp. Achan sinned, and once they dealt with that, then the Lord was with them again in leading them into battle, and the Lord was delivering them. Well, the reason why God rejected them and brought them to dishonor and doesn't go out with their armies is because of their willful sin against him. And the Lord's going to bring about the situation where one day they'll call out, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. They've rejected him now, but they will not reject him in the future when he comes at his return. But listen to what he says. You sell your people cheaply and have not profited from your sale. Have you ever had something that you spent way too much on and you're like, I just got to get rid of this? Got any cows like that? You're like, I don't care if I even make anything on it. I just need to get rid of it. Because if I keep it, it's going to cost me too much. And so this is what he's saying. God, you sold us cheaply. You haven't even made a profit. You sold us at a loss. Well, he did that because of their sin. Is he done with them? No, he's not done with them. He's still working through that. And he says, you made us a reproach to our neighbors, a scoffing and derision, a byword among the nations, a laughingstock among the people. They have dishonor and humiliation and the voices of reproach and reviling because of the presence of his enemy. Verse 17 says, all this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten you, and we have not dealt falsely with your covenant. And while that may be true at the point where the writer wrote that, there was a future point in time where they did deal falsely with the Lord, and they did reject his covenant. And the Lord pronounced judgment on them for that. A judgment that he's still enacting, and he's going to bring it about to bring his people back to him, to themselves. Verse 18 declares, our heart has not turned back, our steps have not deviated from the way. And that may have been true then, but it's not true now. And while there are some among the Jewish people who truly do love God, they reject Jesus. They've rejected his salvation. And there are some, maybe, even, who don't even know who Jesus is. Maybe they've rejected him so much that they've turned their back on all that. They do want to seek the Lord. I think there are some among the people who want to follow God. And the Lord will bring those ones to himself. Think about how many people are sealed in the book of Revelation. I mean, there's millions of Jewish people. But it's not millions of Jewish people who get the mark of God on their forehead. It's 144,000. It's a small fraction of what's actually there. I mean, probably have 10 million Jewish people in the world right now. You have a small fraction of them who are faithful to God. So when he deals with them, he's going to deal with them in judgment, but he will save a remnant, just a small remnant. If we had forgotten the name of our God or extended our hands to strange gods, would God not find this out? He knows the secrets of the heart. We should take those words to heart. God knows exactly what's going on in our hearts. He knows what's going on in our mind. He knows who we are and what we're doing. There are no secrets with God. And these days, there are no secrets, period. You have more information out there that people can access about you than you realize. There are no secrets. You're being tracked. You're being listened to. You're being profiled. They know what ads to send you in the mail or through social media or on a radio. They know. There's no secrets.
Yeah, you have friends who run them surveys. You know
Yes,
it.
sir.
Get all them phone calls.
Hang around the house and talk about, I need a new couch. Guess what's going to show up on your screen? Furniture sales, right? So that's just the way it is. There's no secrets. There's no secrets. No secrets. But, when we are afflicted, and this is I feel like is going to happen. As they struggle through, Think about all they've gone through. I mean, the Holocaust and other things like that. Surely they've cried out to the Lord, "O Lord, arouse yourself. Don't sleep. Don't reject us forever. Do something, O Lord, to save us. Don't hide your face. Don't forget our affliction or our oppression. Our soul is sunk down to the dust. Our body cleaves to the earth." And they cry out, "Rise up and be our help." I think when they cry out to the Lord, "Rise up and be our help. Redeem us for the sake of your loving kindness," the Lord will answer that prayer. And that's the truth for anybody. If we cry out to the Lord, "Lord, save us. Save me from this mess I'm in. Save me from this trouble I put myself into," and repent of our sin, I believe the Lord hears that, and God does answer that prayer. That's what he wants us to do. All who call upon the name of the Lord will be saved, and that's a promise that we can find here. So that's one of the things that they had to do, and individuals throughout their history did turn to the Lord and say, "Lord, save us. Rise up and be our help." And at various times the Lord was their help. The Lord did save them, and he will yet save them again in the future. Maybe not all of them, but there will be a remnant that is saved, that does not reject him.